there are a lot of reforms that can be made in the manga publishing industry. And how they address piracy is one thing that is long overdue in need of like a new strategy in order to mitigate the problem. But another unfortunate problem that occurs in the manga industry is that assistants are often forced to work overtime, but they are not paid for that overtime. And such is the case of one mangaka called Shinsuke Kakuishi, who recently posted that he did not receive overtime pay when he was working as an assistant to Norifusa Mita, the mangaka of Investor Z and Dragon Sakura. For about 11 years and 7 months, he never received that overtime pay. So,
wow.
Kakuishi requested the overtime pay from Mita from working every week during that 11-year period. And so, after he made this post on his blog, it kind of went viral. It had a buzz, and it raised a lot of awareness towards, assistants are often really overworked. They are often forced to work overtime without a whole lot of pay. But nowadays, Mita seems to have a better workplace condition, in terms of like an interview he did with Yahoo News Japan in December 2017. He said that his assistants have 3 days off a week and he doesn't let them do overtime. But in the past, that was not the case with his assistants, according to Kakuishi, because he did not receive pay even once, for the 11 years he was working for him. And that practice needs to be reformed because, that's what leads to death by overwork, is working bad hours without rest and then not having the support in order to help yourself and, having to stress out about money and stuff.
Not to jump too far ahead, but it is worth mentioning that eventually Kakuishi did get repaid his overtime, which is a good thing.
I was working towards that. But eventually, yes, the story had a happy ending because Kakuishi was eventually paid by Mita for all his overtime pay. But even still, it has still raised a conversation. The manga creator Shuo Sato from Say Hello to Blackjack also posted a response about this, talking about the harsh conditions, and that it can be a struggle when you're a mangaka, how to treat your assistants and make sure that they are treated fairly when you have to stress about the deadlines and stuff.
So, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this part of the story really surprised me in how Sato, again, one of the mangaka that responded to Kakuishi, had mentioned, I guess, in a Twitter conversation that he started talking about what it was like working for Fukumoto, the creator of Kaiji, and how he would work 90 to 140 hours per week and only got 10 hours of sleep and basically got 200 yen per hour with no overtime. And that really kind of blew my mind. That honestly really surprised me. That sounds hellish.
I mean, that's less than minimum wage in the U.S. That's $1.79 an hour.
Not even $2. That's ridiculous. Wow, I cannot imagine. I can't imagine working a job like that at all.
Yeah, that would be criminal in the U.S. because we have the minimum wage.
I really hope Fukumoto's work environment has changed since then, because if not, that's really disappointing.
But yeah, Sato's story was pretty eye-opening. Assistants especially are prone to exploitation because they so often go uncredited, and they don't usually receive royalties for the manga that they work on. So there really just needs to be a big overhaul in the Japanese labor laws.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I don't think we really have the time to go over the real nitty gritty of everything that happened and a lot of the conversations with other mangaka that Kakuishi was having on Twitter, but it is a really interesting story. Like, again, like we said, he ultimately got his pay, which is good, but the work it took to get there is all really interesting and eye-opening. And like, you know, certain creators that come out to him and are like, oh, well, you should think about the creators and, you know, how they need to support their families or whatever. And it's like, okay, come on, dude.
I mean, in the end, the overtime pay that Kakuishi ended up receiving from Mita was about 1 million yen, which is about $9,000, which, when you're still thinking about his hours that he worked for 11 years, you feel that he probably deserves even more pay than that. But considering the rate he was working for, that 179 an hour, I guess it does end up totaling towards that. But beyond the compensation, Kakuishi's goal was sparking this conversation and improving working conditions in the manga industry. And that's not something that will happen immediately. But I think this story, and I think, you know, the buzz that he raised with his story will still continue this conversation. And hopefully it will encourage more mangaka, especially young mangaka who get their start out as assistants, to, you know, kind of band together and kind of lobby the government to improve the labor laws, especially for mangaka.
Though it is worth mentioning that, you know, not every manga creator treats their workers like this. You know, there are people like Yoshihiro Tagashi of Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter fame, who apparently really goes out of his way to make sure that, you know, his assistants are fed and aren't overworked, like even like, you know, paying for their dinner and, you know, giving them his wallet for whenever like they need things.
Yeah.
And I found that kind of heartwarming that Togashi is actually a pretty cool person and actually takes care of his employees.
I'm not surprised. He seems like a person who would prioritize the happiness and health of himself and the people he's working with over, you know, forcing them to work long hours just to meet a deadline to the detriment of their health. Like, you know, considering that Tagashi rebelled against Jump forcing him to continue Yu Yu Hakusho longer than he wanted him to, and then has essentially managed to work his contract in a way that he can take breaks so he can keep himself healthy. You know, I'm not surprised that he's, you know, such a good proponent of good working conditions.
Yeah, it's just nice to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see that he has the right attitude. I mean, that, you know, more people should adopt, like, his attitude. But, you know, just because of the culture of the manga industry and the mindset that a lot of mangaka have, that they need to, like, work themselves to death in order to, you know, draw these series and get work out on time every week, or, like, on hellish schedules, even if it isn't a weekly series. You know, that is, you know, a detrimental mindset, and it leads to a lot of exploitation. And in general, I hope this conversation has, like, opened up eyes, because even though I'm sure working conditions are a lot better in general now, because even Miwa's, you know, working conditions for his assistants are a lot better than it used to be. But it's still, we still hear so many stories of mangaka, like, working themselves to the exhaustion or having to incur, you know, medical injuries because of their lifestyles as a result of, you know, bad working hours. So there's a lot of improvement that can still be made. And again, I hope mangaka, you know, really band together to improve labor laws for the manga industry.
Yeah, this really sort of opened my eyes in particular because, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm sort of used to hearing these stories about how, again, actual mangaka are always overworked and always working these hellish schedules just to get their stuff done in time. And, you know, it never really once occurred to me, like, that being carried over to, you know, the other people that work with them. And I don't know, like, this story kind of opened my eyes in that sense. So it's just, I mean, it's probably not the most surprising thing to hear, but I guess the manga industry is just hellish all around, which is unfortunate. But I'm personally hoping that we'll come to a point one day where, you know, these people aren't nearly killing themselves all the time just to bring us their quality work. That would be nice.
Yeah. I can only hope that industry conditions will improve. I think they might, consistently be improving from how they used to be, but, there's a long way to go.
Yeah, I'm still reeling over from that stuff with Fukumoto, honestly.
Mm-hmm.